Shanti. Good morning. Today Baba's talking specially about Kalyankari Purushottam Sangam Yuga. This is the time we are in. Everyone else is in the Iron Age. And we are with Baba in the confluence age, moving from one shore to another. This is 23rd of December. The essence, sweet children, this is the beautiful, beneficial confluence age in which the Father himself comes and makes impure Bharat pure. The question, what signal do you receive at the confluence age as soon as the Father comes? And the answer is because the Father comes to bring about the end of the impure world, everyone receives the signal of this world coming to an end. This is why there are visions of destruction. You are now able to see the trees of the new world in front of you. The trees, seeing the trees means when you are traveling by ship and you're on the ocean for a long time, you just see the straight horizon. But when you come close to land, then you first see things which are tall. So the trees are the tallest. You see the trees first, and then as you go closer, then you see the land. This is why he speaks about the trees. And this is because in the Sindhi community, people would go, the young men would go for several years to foreign lands to learn business. And then after a long time, they would come home. And the sign of arriving home is seeing the trees on the horizon. So the song is, having found you, we have found the whole world, the earth, the sky, all belong to us. Om Shanti. In fact, good morning from the spiritual father to the spiritual children should be said. Because you children know that the Father comes to change night into day. You can calculate this. When is it that Baba finally comes? No date or time is fixed. However, when he does come, it must definitely be 1 minute after midnight when Baba, Shiv Baba, enters this body of Brahma Baba. Because this is the unlimited day and night. So Shiv Baba comes after the darkest part of the night. So the time and date cannot be shown. He simply tells his children that he comes to change the night into day and change hell into heaven. That is, he comes to make the impure world into the pure world. So world means human society. You can understand that it is said that Baba comes at night. And people speak of Shivratri, the night of Shiva. He comes to change the night into the day. Does he have a horoscope? There is no time or date for the birth of Krishna either, because they have taken him away to a very distant period. They say that he was born in the night in the Copper Age. Actually, no one knows when Krishna took birth. There is no period or time or date. They just celebrate his birthday at night. In fact, Shiv Baba also comes in the night. In Christianity, they say that God comes secretly like a thief in the night. And the birthday of Christ is also, which is really the birthday of Jesus, is also celebrated at night. So these are all reminiscent of the stories of Krishna, which are symbolic for the arrival of Shiv Baba at night. The people of Bharat celebrate the night of Shiva, Shivratri, and they also speak of the birthday of Shiva, Shiva Jayanti, the birth of Shiva. But in fact, you should not speak about the birthday of Shiva because he never dies. So people can only have a birthday if they're taking rebirth. It is human beings who die and then take rebirth, but he never dies. And this is why it is wrong to say Shiv Jayanti, the birthday of Shiva, but it is correct to say Shivratri, the night of Shiva. Shiv Baba is telling you all this. No one else can say this. Although the sannyasis do chant the mantra Shivoham, which means I am Shiva, they cannot tell when I come or what I do when I come. Shiv Baba tells you that the night of half the cycle is now coming to an end and the day is beginning. The episode of the Gita is being repeated. So the episode of the Gita is the great and total civil war, as well as nuclear war, as well as the end of humanity. That's going on. So the episode of the Gita. The storms of death are also just in front of you. Storms of death is when people are killed in vast numbers in either storms of bombs or storms of other natural calamities. There is definitely the impure world also. It is now the end of the Iron Age, and there are many difficulties in front of you. You understand that this is the same Mahabharata war which has been remembered in the scriptures. The old world is to be destroyed through natural calamities. Not through nuclear bombs, but the nuclear bombs will set off the natural calamities because it has to be very, very big. Something to detonate calderas and all this type of thing. Huge tsunamis, 100 miles high. That's very big. Therefore, the God of the Gita must definitely have come. He comes at the end of the Iron Age. The first prince, Krishna, the first prince of the Golden Age, cannot appear in the Copper Age in the form of Krishna. He will be taking rebirth and he will be there, but no one will know who he is. There are some stories where they say that he is King Vikramaditya, the great king of the Copper Age, said to be the best of all the kings in recorded history. human beings get 84 bodies, and with every birth, their features change. They cannot have the same features in any other birth. In any two births, each birth is different. Each human is different. In every birth, each one is different from every other. Extraordinary to have this many billions of differences. Although Krishna is remembered and worshipped at this time, they cannot depict his accurate features. You cannot take a photograph of Krishna. So they simply make an image of him on paper or out of clay. And only when you go into trance can you see his accurate features. I saw this one time. Extraordinarily beautiful, but made of matter, which is different from matter that we have now. And I tried to draw, but I couldn't because the drawing equipment was so gross that you couldn't. A very interesting experience. You cannot take his photograph. Meera used to dance with Krishna in trance, and she was very well known, a great devotee of India. She is remembered as one of the main devotees. So Meera and Narad, they are famous as devotees. She would remember Krishna and immediately she would have a vision of him. She adored Krishna and she would see him in visions. And this is why she wanted to remain pure. You know, her story is that she was married, but then her husband died. He was a good man. And when in India in those days, if your husband dies, then it's normal for his brother to take you as his wife. But his brother was not good. And so she wanted to remain pure, and he didn't like that idea. So he gave her very serious harassment. But she made it through by her spiritual focus on Krishna. So you know that there are no vices there in the Golden Age. If you do love Krishna, you definitely have to remain pure. Impure ones cannot meet Krishna. It is because Meera remained pure that she is praised. Only Baba explains all these secrets to you. Her pure feelings were fulfilled for a temporary period on the path of devotion. She had a vision, and whatever desires she had were fulfilled for a temporary period. There are many different deities. Different people believe in different deities, and they want to have visions of their favorite deity. And therefore, according to the plan of dharma, those desires are fulfilled. Especially Shiv Baba is active from the Copper Age onwards because people are remembering him with a lot of love. And those who are sincere, he will reward them with visions. So the path of devotion is also fixed in the drama. Some study the Vedas and scriptures, and they try extremely hard, but they cannot go to liberation, that means to nirvana. And they also cannot achieve liberation in life, so jivan mukti. In ancient times, people would go to Benares and sacrifice themselves at Kashi. It was a special ritual suicide that they would do. And they believed that they would go to Shiva, Shiv Kashi, or they would go to Nirvana. However, no one can go there. So Baba had said that when you do a ritual suicide for religious means, it can finish off your sins up till that point. Then you would start again, sin less, but you would still decline. So it's not as good as what we do here. Only the one Father can take everyone into liberation. He alone is called the bestower of liberation and liberation in life, mukti and jivan mukti. No one else can take you into mukti or liberation, nirvana. In the Golden Age, when it was the kingdom of Lakshmi and Narayan, there was liberation in life, not bondage in life. And there were very few people there. At this time, there are hundreds and thousands, millions of people, but there were not so many in the Golden Age. So where was everyone else at that time? It is only at this time of the confluence age that you know this. You receive the knowledge of the beginning, continuation, and end of the world at this time. And no one else can have the knowledge of the Creator or the beginning, middle, and end of the creation. And you know that it is now the end of the impure world. Those people, the conventional Hindus of Vedantic India, those people think that the Iron Age will still continue for 40,000 more years. But you know that the Iron Age is now going to end. And this is why the Father comes and speaks this knowledge. God is the highest on high, and his birth takes place here in Bharat. He comes at the confluence age and he signals the end. He has also given visions of destruction. Arjuna is portrayed as having been given a vision. So in the Gita, they show Arjuna seeing God brighter than 1,000 suns. And among you children, many of you also have had visions. The closer you come, the more you will be able to see everything. When someone comes close to his own home, he begins to remember everything. And you too will continue to have many visions. So he unlocks your ancient memories, and the ancient past comes into the present. You will go to the world of liberation, nirvana, and then you will come down into the world of liberation in life. You know that Bharat truly was the master of the world. The Father says, I come every 5,000 years and I teach you Raj Yoga, how to be masters, master of your mind, master of your sanskaras, master of your circumstances, drama, nature, the hearts of people. This establishment is taking place for the future new world. Establishment takes place at the confluence age. And you Brahmins are present at the confluence age. Those people are Shudras. And that means all the people who are in the Iron Age, who don't become Brahmins, they are Shudras, whereas you are Brahmins. The others are deities. So in the confluence age, it is superimposed on half of the confluence age is the end of the Iron Age, superimposition, and the other half is superimposed on the beginning of the Golden Age. So the destruction takes place halfway through the confluence age. And then after the destruction, there is the reconstruction, which takes time also. And then you have Shudras, Brahmins, and deities during the confluence age. Quite extraordinary. These things are not mentioned in the scriptures. People do not know what the confluence age is. This is called the beautiful, beneficial confluence age. It's usually called auspicious, Kalyankari, and Purushottam. It is that confluence age when impure Bharat becomes pure. The Father is beneficial and he comes in Bharat. The Father says, your 84 births have now come to an end. And you are now impure. Not a single one is pure. Everyone is corrupt and born through vice. You used to be elevated deities. Then you became the warriors, the merchants, and the Shudras. Now you have become Brahmins, and then you will become deities. He comes at the end, and he carries out establishment through the mouth of Prajapita Brahma. Establishment of what? It is of heaven and the deity dharma. So it's a civilization. Heaven, the place, and civilization, the setup, the social setup. You have come here to imbibe divine virtues and become deities. You children know that no vice-based people are allowed here. No one who is not celibate is allowed here. A promise of purity first has to be made. And if, after making a promise, you break that promise, you do end up in the depths of hell. And you will take birth as a cremator. So a cremator means someone who's very interested in skin, bodies. So no impure ones can come here in front of Baba. And even if a Brahmin teacher brings someone here by mistake, that means without knowing that this person is not practicing celibacy, then she too would be condemned. Both would become cremators. It's very heavy sentencing. Those who are not able to practice purity have no right to come here. So, in Madhuban, earlier it was very strictly enforced, and then subsequently a little bit lenient, but Baba has said that a time will come when it will be again very strictly enforced. Anyone can come and listen personally to the brothers or sisters, but they cannot come into Baba's gathering. Someone who brings anyone, even by mistake, of that type, will also be hurt a lot. They will experience some consequences of that. So many come here, and they all know they are going to the unlimited Father, and that they must definitely practice purity. Mira remained pure, and so there is so much regard for her. You now give them the nectar of knowledge to drink, but those people say they want to drink poison. So many innocent, weak ones are assaulted because of vice. They're raped. There is no question of Krishna in this. It is a great mistake that they have put the name of Krishna as the speaker of the Gita instead of the name of God. The Father explains that the devotees say that God comes as a result of their performing devotion to give them the fruit of that devotion. But that devotion was fruitless. They don't understand anything. Bharat was golden aged, and it is now iron aged. They call out to the purifier to come, which means that they must be impure. But if you tell any of them that they are an impure resident of hell, they would not understand. When Baba had made you sensible, sensible means knowledgeable, and not just having the knowledge, but understanding the knowledge, then it became heaven. Now, because everyone is senseless, that means they don't understand these things, they are poverty-stricken. Poverty-stricken means that their karma puts them into loss, debt. Bharat was so elevated when it was the kingdom of deities. They say that it used to be heaven and that it was the kingdom of Lakshmi and Narayan. But then they wrote such things in the scriptures that people believe that devils were also there. So how did this happen? Because the scriptures began to be, they were not written at first. They were spoken. And when the Copper Age happened, and this confluence age between the Silver Age and the Copper Age, there was a small destruction, which was very big. A lot of these natural calamities, possibly a celestial body slammed into the earth. It seems something like that. So then it replicated the circumstances of this time. And so it triggered the memories of what happened at this time. And so they remembered God, they remembered the war, and they remembered destruction, and they remembered that heaven was created as a consequence of this big war between the good people and the not so good people. And in the confluence age, there's always this difficulty between those who are Baba's children and the people who are against them. And so they thought that all this happened in heaven, but it actually happened in the confluence age. So they mixed it up, and that's how it got into the scriptures. So those scriptures are not for the purpose of bringing about sadgati. Sadgati, the arrival of the purified soul into the golden age. It is only when the Father comes that he does give everyone sadgati. He takes everyone to the soul world and then to the golden age. And not everyone, but who follows his directions. This is the kingdom of Ravan, and that is why people desire the kingdom of Ram. But they do not know when the kingdom of Ravan began. The Father, the ocean of knowledge, takes everyone into salvation, and these matters have to be understood. Salvation means soul world and then golden age. Every soul has an imperishable part. Souls come from the world of peace onto the earth to play their roles. Souls are imperishable, and the drama is also imperishable. Souls are the imperishable actors within the drama, and they are residents of the supreme abode, Paramdham. 84 births are remembered, but they speak about 8.4 million births, so they can't imagine 84 births, so they added some dots, some zeros. Then they say that God is present in the pebbles and stones, and so that is defamation. So this is all the research of the Vedanta people. And they researched through spiritual practices. And so they could make contact with the element, the sixth element of light. And they thought that that was God. And you know that the sixth element of light is present everywhere, but it's very difficult to detect. So they could detect it through their spiritual practices, and they concluded they were detecting God, this omnipresence force, but they were detecting the element of light. God is light, and that is light, so they couldn't tell the difference. I think that is still very minute part of physical matter, because the sixth element of light, from the angle of people who do these kinds of practices, they think that it's antimatter. But from Baba's angle, it's still part of matter. And I don't know if the hadron particle is part of that or not. But I don't think there are any particles in the sixth element of light. I think particles are air, earth, fire, water, ether. But then this is more subtle even than ether. Ether is pretty subtle. Ether is what you get in space. They say that God is in the pebbles and stones, and so that is defamation. Defamation in the sense of is incorrect information. But it's also called defamation because they have caused people to focus their attention on matter and turn them away from God. And from that angle, he's not comfortable with what they did. This is all the Vedantic India, the Vedas and Upanishads and all this. So the Father uplifts Bharat and makes it into heaven. Ravan comes and defames it and makes it into hell. So in the character of Ravan, the image of Ravan, they show him holding the Vedas in his hands. So Ravan represents not only the 5 vices, but it also represents the military because he has weapons. And it also represents the this concept of God in the scriptures, and which is incorrect. And so the world of Ravan is called false because the philosophy is also false. So it's not just only the 5 vices. So that's how Ravan defames God and makes the world into hell. This drama is a play about happiness and sorrow. This is the forest of thorns. And the Father comes and changes thorns into flowers. And the greatest thorn is lust. The Father says, I have now come to purify you. And those who become pure, that is, practice purity, they will become the masters of the pure world. Sometimes people are a bit confused about this expression, become pure. You can't become pure, but you can practice purity. And you will become pure slowly, slowly. And once you are pure, you're dead. So, Shanti. So Baba says the biggest thorn, greatest thorn is lust. The Father says, I have now come to purify you. And those who become pure, that is, those who practice celibacy, they will become the masters of the pure world. You need the sanskar of purity to be a master of the pure world. The Father has come to teach you easy Raj Yoga, not very easy. Easy Sahaj Raj Yoga, yoga which is not the Raj Yoga of the Hatha Yogis, but the Raj Yoga of the Raj Yogis is yoga of the focus of attention and putting into practice all this knowledge. He says, remember me, your beloved. So easy in the sense of focus your attention in soul consciousness on one and do not be distracted by distractions. That's very easy, right? He says, remember me, your beloved. He says, if you're in love with me, there's no problem because you will be totally carried by that. All souls are lovers of the one beloved. He comes and takes everyone to the world of liberation. But Baba says you cannot go there while you are still impure. That is, means you still have the impure body and you still have a little bit of karmic accounts to settle. And you still have a little bit of attraction and repulsion going on. Yes? It must be. So you can't go to heaven quite yet. Remember me so that the alloy can be removed. According to the drama, I come when it is time for me to come and purify you children. This is the same Mahabharat war. This is the last war in the land of death. And Baba has said there will be a dress rehearsal and followed by the final. So you can expect 2 very big wars. This is the last war in the land of death. There is no war in the land of immortality. So the golden age is the world of immortality. There is the kingdom of Ram where the dharma atmas live. Dharma atma is the souls who are they live in this soul conscious state, and they know about the soul, but they don't know about God. And they don't know there's a decline. Here, there are sinful souls who continue to commit sins. The world of Punya Atma is called heaven, people who do pure karma. The Father says, I take you into the stage of ascent in a second. He takes you up. How? He fills you with his power, and that takes you up, but then you come down again. It takes just this one final birth, whereas for the stage of descending, it takes 84 births. The Father says, remember me while you walk and move around. I have come to uplift even the sages and holy men. So a time will come when the people who represent the Vedas will know that the Vedas are not right and that this is right. We haven't got there yet. When people with Tamopradhan intellects hear, they continue to say that this is true. They have blind faith. That is called blind faith. He says it in English and in Hindi. They continue to worship dolls without knowing their biographies. So worship means honoring. So you honor somebody without knowing who they are. It doesn't make any sense. If you know who someone is, you will honor them knowing who they are. But if you honor these images of deities without knowing who they are, he says, dolls. The Father now comes and gives you knowledge of all these things. This is called spiritual knowledge. And that is called philosophy of the scriptures. The difference between spiritual knowledge and philosophy. So spiritual knowledge is revealed knowledge. And philosophy literally means love for knowledge, but it's knowledge that is discovered. So that's the difference. One is revealed knowledge and the other is discovered knowledge. Only the Father comes and explains all this to you children. Not a single human being in the world knows the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, accurately. And there are many religions where people believe in God as light, but they don't know enough. So they know a little bit, and then they have extrapolations, and that puts it to an inaccurate awareness. As human beings, if they do not know their Father, it means that they are worse than animals. So animals get born, and some of them know their parents, and some of them don't. So they go in front of deities and they sing the praise, saying, you are full of virtues, we are impure and low. Both the people of today and the deities are human beings, but here, this world is a forest of thorns, and Baba is changing you from thorns into flowers. So thorns will stick it to each other, and flowers give fragrance. So they're virtuous. Bharat was the land of truth, and then Ravan came and made it into the land of falsehood. And it is the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, who makes it into the land of truth. Only the Father comes and gives you his introduction. And he gives it to Brahmin children. Then this knowledge will not remain. Through the power of yoga, you children become masters of the world. No one can receive sovereignty of the world through physical power. Physical power means military and economic manipulation and force and torture and all these ways that people seek to control and gain control over the whole world, because it's a temptation, right? Biggest temptation. People try, but Baba says it's a law of spirituality that it cannot succeed, because you do it in the process of doing it, you give a lot of sorrow to people. So they won't like it. They don't acknowledge you as the master. Bharat, which used to be the master of the world, has now become poverty-stricken. And the intellects of people are such that even though they see the board outside on which it is written Prajapita Brahma Kumaris, they do not understand that this is a godly family. There are so many BKs. There cannot be any blind faith here. This is God's family. And people think this is an institution. What do you think? Is this a family or is this an institution? This is a question that's been going on for a long time. So many people think this is an organization, right? The Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual Organization, that's the name, right? In India, it's called Prajapita Brahma Kumar Kumari Ishwarya Vishwavidyalaya, which means a university. And what is it? Baba says it's a family, big family. There are Kumars and Kumaris, and so this is a home. You hold so many exhibitions and you explain so much to people, but they don't understand anything. Only when they take the 7 days course and understand very clearly can it sit in their intellects that the Father has come once again to give you the unlimited inheritance. Acha. To the sweetest beloved, long lost and now found children, love, remembrance, and good morning from the mother, the father, Bap Dada. The spiritual father says namaste to the spiritual children. The spiritual children say namaste to the spiritual father. There's one small video that was sent to me today, which has Dadi Gulzar speaking some lecture. And they gave me a little excerpt from it. And she was telling the difference between the devotees who think of God as the Father and the Brahma Kumars and Kumaris who say not the Father, but Mera Baba, my Father. If you say the Father, you don't really know that it's a family of humanity. If you say my Father, that actually makes the difference between a family or not a family. So what is needed in the family? Harmony. Harmony. Dadi Prakash Mani used to take up this word harmony. And in Hindi, if you say harmony, it means to accept defeat. And she said that if you accept defeat, then you can have harmony, because the problem of disharmony is arrogance. And what happens if somebody does something wrong, but they're arrogant, then they will blame the victim for what they did wrong. And the victim will not think that they are blameworthy. And so there's antagonism because of the ego of the perpetrator. And that creates disharmony, which you can also call dysfunctional family. So that the change from a dysfunctional family, large family, to a functional family, it's a huge deal. But he says, do this. The essence for dharma, in order to go to the ascending stage, stay in remembrance of the One Father as you walk and move around. Uplift everyone in the same way as the Father does. How do you uplift people? You don't look at them as they are, but as they really are. Because how people are is somewhat disempowered, and they feel disempowered. But he says that's not really real. It's just you accepted to be disempowered. But reality is, no, you're in your power. Pure, peaceful, powerful, loveful, blissful being of light. That's you. Regardless of what happened. Anything could have happened. But you're actors in the drama, so whatever happened, it's all in the script and nothing to do with you. Yes or no? Very, very useful sentence Baba gave recently in the Murli. All your sins are fixed in drama, so, let them go and move on. So second is drink the nectar of knowledge and also help others to do the same. Do the service of changing thorns into flowers. So another attribute of arrogance is that you want to dominate. And so dominating by, seduction. People try to dominate by seduction and showing their strength, physical strength. And then it's a predator-victim set of relationships. But if you just have fragrance and there's an exchange of fragrance, then that's egalitarian, right? There are many perfumes in this world, but to be called a perfume, it would be nice. So if you just have a multitude of perfumes, it's quite a nice atmosphere. So the blessing is, may you be full of attainments and be stamped with the imperishable stamp of courage and enthusiasm with your stage of dying alive. So what you have to die from is accepting to be disempowered. Is that possible? Right. Don't accept to be disempowered. Because you can't be disempowered unless you accept the idea of being disempowered. Can you? It's a custom, no doubt, but once you're dead, customs are also dead. So he is saying something really very empowering here. Zeal and enthusiasm is visible in the eyes and features and in every activity of those who are full of attainments. However, in order to be stamped with the imperishable stamp of courage and enthusiasm, what's an imperishable stamp? Something like a tattoo, right? Can't get rid of it. It's on your skin. So you tattoo yourself with courage and enthusiasm. So you have to die alive from your past and the old sanskaras, nature, thoughts, and actions that are contrary to the godly maryadas. So Maryada usually is called a code of conduct, but Maryada is actually a boundary. And so what happens is people invade you and they cross your boundaries and they try to condition you in ways that you give away your power. And so when you come in Gyan, he sets up boundaries that make it very difficult for others to invade you unless you get impressed by them or attracted or terrified, because people invade you through seduction and terror. And so we have to be completely indifferent. Indifferent is good. Indifferent to seduction and terror. And then people will accuse you of arrogance, but what you'll actually be is in your self-honor. They accuse you of arrogance so that you stop that. But don't buy that lie. It's not true. But you're so used to, as you said, accustomed to being invaded, put down, etc., that that puts you against, that makes you not have any boundaries. So maryadas are boundaries. If you call them codes of conduct, it's very easy for people to get you to drop your boundaries, because they will say, you're arrogant, you're not following the codes of conduct. And then they invade you. So it's better to use the word boundary than codes of conduct for Maryada. Then set the switch of your promise and continue to move along according to your promise. Your promise is, I cannot be invaded. That's that. So continue to move along according to your promise in a practical way. So along with courage, also have this enthusiasm, and the sparkle of attainment will then be visible from a difference. So how do people invade you? They make you think that only they can give you what you need. And that's another lie. It's all, what do you call it? Manipulation. It's a game. You have to understand the game. Slogan. Those who are double light in a mela and in a jamela are the embodiments of dharma. So jamela is chaos. So every so often there's chaotic situation. And so enjoy the chaos. Don't be afraid of it. Then that's called embodiments of dharma. Dharma means that you are not fazed by it. You know who you are and what you are. So the chaos is very contagious, and you can get caught up in it because it's contagious. And so don't be affected by that contagion. Om Shanti. So we'll offer Bhog. हम उड़ के
प्यारे से वतन में, उस मीठे से वतन में हो अव्यक्त वतन में हम उड़ के चले जाएं, ओ हम उड़ के चले जाएं अंबर के उस पार। पंछी रे उड़ जा प्यारे वतन में, नीले अंबर के उस पार, नीले अंबर के उस पार, हो नीले अंबर के उस पार।
Offering bhog to Baba is another way of meditation, another way of being close to Baba's thoughts. And many times Baba will give messages and visions and indications, symbols. So this is important if you can pick it up. And some people can. Some people pick up something else because it is called the subtle regions. So there are subtle things in the subtle regions. There's also subtle Maya. And so Baba discourages people from going in trance because of that. But Baba gave an indication that this is the time of viruses. And there are viruses going around in computers, different types of hacking. And there's also the many varieties of viruses. But there's other very subtle viruses, which is in the level of thought. And Baba talks about the importance of pure feelings and good wishes. So pure feelings are not viruses, good wishes are not viruses, but impure feelings and bad wishes, they are viruses. And they spread. And so in a family, Baba talked about this as a family today. So in a family is harmonious when people are seriously fraternal. Real fraternity is to give love and regard. But sometimes in a family there can be desires, there can be jealousy, there can be many things. And then rivalry. And Baba spoke about in the Murli today that this is the episode of the Gita. And included in the episode of the Gita is the family problem of the Pandavs and the Kauravas, because the Kauravas didn't like the Pandavs, mostly because of jealousy. Because the Pandavs had God with them, they had qualities, virtues, competences, and the Kauravas didn't want that and did everything possible to mess up everything the Pandavas were doing, and to disenfranchise them, disempower them, and use all kinds of tricks to damage them. And then the actual Gita is where Krishna, which is actually Shiv Baba, saying to Arjuna that now you have to stand up and fight, because it's your duty. And Arjuna says, well, if I do that, and if I win, then what I gain would be stained with blood. And so I don't want that. So the pandav is one who desires to do what Baba wants, knowing that there will be good consequences when you do good things. But you don't do that with a desire to take it away from somebody else. And so it's not stained with any blood. But the Kauravas have desire, and they want. And it doesn't matter how much Arjuna avoided it, but Krishna said, you have to fight. And that's that. And so even if there are bad wishes going around and impure feelings going around, it's very important to stand up for what you stand for, your purity, your goodwill, your integrity, your loyalty to Baba. And when Baba talked about the four faiths, he talked about faith in the self, very important. Faith in the self, meaning that you have to recognize who you are and honor who you are. Just because somebody else projects onto you and makes you feel less than, that's a projection. You are who you are. Don't take those projections. You're not a blank screen. You have to project who you are. And that is not arrogance. That is your self-honor. And he says, have faith in Baba. And he talks about faith in the intellect, about Baba. Sometimes he says love in the intellect or faith in the intellect. So love and faith in Baba in the intellect means that you know who he is. And you know that he is your father. And so you cannot be less than, right? And you understand that he is always with you. So you cannot be afraid. You cannot allow yourself to be diminished by someone who can't see you or projects onto you. He wants people to be able to feel that you are with God, and that is something very powerful that makes you a Shiv Shakti. The Shiv Shaktis are very greatly honored. And then he says, have faith in the dharma. And faith in the dharma is that whatever is happening is as it should be. And we are no longer looking at things in terms of good and bad, right and wrong in the conventional way. We look at everything as it is like this, it is destined, it has to be this way. and so be it. Even for very bad things. I remember there was a very bad thing that happened one time, and I was in Madhuban at that time, living there, and Dari Prakash Mani was ahead, so she knew everything, what was happening. And she also knew that everybody knew, though nobody was talking about it. And so she asked me, "Are you all right about it?" And I said to her, "Yes, it's okay." And she liked that. Because it is drama. The drama has very nice things and very nasty things in it. And a drama is like that. Baba always says it's a play of happiness and sorrow, victory and defeat, good things and bad things. It is the way of the drama. And we have to have faith that it is as it should be. And it must be like that, because it must play out the way it plays out. It's fixed, it's predestined, and we are the actors in that drama, imperishable. And so no matter how bad anything can get, it will always finish that part and come through to the stage called victory. And victory is where, you make it through smelling like a rose, as they say, unscathed, and there you are. And then faith in the family is one that people find most difficult. And this is because we still are influenced by pain and pleasure, like and dislike, approval, disapproval, all of the things that come from our ways of understanding the world up until now. But faith in the family means that everyone must play the part that they're playing. And it's no need to try to change anything. You can't change it, you can't control it, you can't stop it. These three are important. And to know that Baba is responsible. And he knows how to do his job. We do not do his job for him. But he tells us what we have to do, and that we have to do. So we continue in that way. Okay. There is a question. What is the significance of Baba saying that he comes 1 minute after midnight? I think we can understand it in some ways that midnight is really the end of one day, and 1 minute after midnight is the beginning of the next day. And of course, it's still night, but from after midnight comes, the dawn will come. Up until midnight, you're thinking about it's more and more and more night. And then after midnight, it starts to be morning. There is also a clock that has been created. I can't remember what they call it, but it's about how close we are to nuclear war. And the midnight means nuclear war is now. And I think it stands at 3 or 4 minutes to midnight. And that this is, I think the UN had made this. And sometimes there's more danger of war then the clock goes closer to midnight, and sometimes it's a little easier and the clock comes away. And the other the other thing about it is Baba mentioned in a Murli 2 or 3 days ago about how Shiv Baba is the oldest, and that he's the first soul who comes at the beginning. And there is this expression, a word for God, Ek Omkar, which means I am the beginning. This is in the Sikh religion. And so after Baba comes the birth of Brahma, the birth of the Gita, all these things come, and then we come. And so, and all of this, you remember, we are depicted in the picture of the kalpa tree underground in the roots. And so underground also means it's dark in the roots. You're underground, nobody can see you. You're doing tapasya, and the water of gyan and yoga going into the roots and going up the tree. Because sometimes he says you have to water the leaves of the kalpa tree, all the leaves. And so this work which is going on is secret, it's invisible, underground. Even our Amrit Vela is mostly at night. And there are sometimes some places in the world where its sun has already risen by Amrit Vela in the summertime. And but mostly Amrit Vela time is still dark. And so that's it. We are incognito warriors. And so all of this is related to just 1 minute after midnight. The doomsday clock, that's right. Yeah, the doomsday clock. Yeah. Can you tell me what it says? Why does humanity remember total annihilation?
Is it memorial of something?
Well, yes, because when there is destruction, there is actually, there are no survivors in United States, Australia, Africa, the Arab world, Israel, China. Only there will be survivors, and only very few in India. They know that, they experience that. And a little bit like the story of Noah's flood. There was Noah and his family who survived because they had the ark and all the animals in it. But otherwise, everyone was killed in the flood, right? They speak of Noah's flood. And this occurrence of Noah's flood, where there was water all over the earth, it's a memory where, you know, when you drop nuclear bombs in large quantities, there's it detonates the fault lines. And so you get a lot of movement of the oceans, and you also get a lot of rain because it creates great heat very quickly. And so water evaporates, and then there's a lot of storms, and I don't know exactly, but it's very disturbed weather. And as we speak, we have very heavy rain in San Francisco today. The melting of the ice caps, the detonation of the fault lines, the tsunamis, and all of these things that happen definitely create an effect like this. And so this is a memory. And there had to be a survivor, because if there were no survivors at all, no one would know that there was annihilation. So there has to be somebody to know that they're the only person left, or the only few people left. So it's almost total And Baba says, though people think it's total, and they write in the scriptures that it's total, but there has to be some survivors. There's a question, does celibacy in this Murli have to be literal for those already married? A person could be physically celibate, but impure due to lusting after all sorts of things, not just of a sexual nature. Also, the definition of celibacy includes not being married, but it sounds like the definition was not included in the story of Mira. No, celibacy means that once you come to Baba, whether you're married or not married, then he suggests that if you want to reach where Raj Yoga will take you, then you have to practice different disciplines of purity, including celibacy. And celibacy is never imposed on anyone because it's not an easy thing. And of course, purity includes all sorts of things, including celibacy, but it's not limited to celibacy. But the thing is, if you are celibate, then you know if you're not celibate, or if you are celibate, if you're doing sexual activity or you're not doing sexual activity. But then there comes the question of flirtation and all that sexual games that go on. And when you go into the depth of purity, it has to do also with something like lust for power. Many people have lust for power, and people who get into positions of power because of desire for power, traditionally you see them extremely sexually active with all sorts of sexual partners from here, there, and everywhere. That's pretty much the case, always. And so you have to see how pure you want to be, or how pure you can be, and it will be incremental over time. But you know whether you're eating impure food or not. And some people get very focused in traces of impure food, but Baba's not so concerned about that. He's concerned about thoughts, and he's concerned about that you develop the sanskara of not being sexual, because there is no sexuality in the golden age, and you need to have that sanskar. You also have to be not afraid of death, because you have to be able to leave the body voluntarily, and you can't do that if you're afraid of death. There has to be ego death. And there are so many levels on which you can practice Raj Yoga, and it's incremental and progressive. And so you have to see where you are and where you want to go, and pace yourself in such a way that you can keep going. It's a long, long journey, all the way from your youth till your death. And there is a lot of different terrain to pass through. Okay, so everyone have a wonderful day, and we will see you tomorrow. And I don't know. Shanti.